Greetings. This is Arvat of Speak, the Universe Listens. As a very young person, I always felt that I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders, having to make grown-up decisions in order to survive a life marked with physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. While my face was smiling on the outside, on the inside, I always secretly cried and felt miserable. However, over the years, I learned some gems that helped to turn my life around. I now get to live the life of my dreams, filled with love, travel, and wonderment. And I am absolutely passionate about sharing what I have learned with you. If you want to live your best life, tune in each week as I, along with some amazing guests, share these life-changing gems with you. Inspired to be more, do more, have more. Greetings and welcome to Speak, the Universe Listens. And today's topic is Stay Woke. And I have DeBorah joining me today. Hey, DeBorah.
Hi, Arvat. Hi, everybody.
Yes, and as you can see, we are broadcasting via Zoom, or we're recording via Zoom, and I am in my vehicle, and Deborah is at home, and we are just excited to be here today. So, stay woke.
Yep.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, when that phrase kind of started circulating a couple of years ago, I don't think I was in a place that I am now where I have quite the understanding of consciousness and like being more self-aware. So, you know, I've come to understand that that's pretty much what that means. Stay aware of who you are at any given time, and that it can be challenging, but there's also a way that I found makes it easier for me, and I just have to have a routine. Having a good routine helps me stay conscious or aware, self-aware. What about for you?
Well, I don't know. I can't remember if I have put a routine in place, but I do have something that I do to help me stay woke. I actually play a game, and I just named it. It's called Catch Yourself in the Act. And so basically, when I'm talking about stay woke or being conscious, being aware of yourself, I'm basically saying, remember what your power is. Remember that you have power, that we're not these limited beings, and we're walking amongst other people who are not limited beings. And so often we see each other, we see ourselves and we see each other as just this shell of this human form, but we're so much more than that. And so when I'm saying stay woke, I'm really speaking to remembering that you are so much more than that, and that we have the power to create our own realities. And so we often, we live our lives pretty much giving the power away to everyone and everything around us, not realizing that we are in control of our reality. And so the game, Catch Yourself in the Act, I actually am just reminding myself every time I forget. If I notice that I'm forgetting, I'll pull myself back. And so I in the moment when it's happening, I pull myself back and I have myself think a different thought.
Yeah. Yep. You have to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But I think that is also from time to time a challenge for me to first notice it, to be in a place where you can be aware that you're not that you're not being self-aware. You have to be aware that you're not being aware.
Right, exactly.
You're like, wait a second, this is not who I am, or I'm limiting myself right now by getting caught up in this whirlwind of frustration or confusion or so yeah.
So what kind of rituals do you have?
So meditating first thing in the morning,
Mm.
trying to do that before my feet hit the floor, but unfortunately that doesn't always happen because I'll get up, like most humans, first thing in the morning. For me, I have to use the restroom. So my feet hit the floor and go to the bathroom first. And then sometimes I just get caught up and I'm like in my, you know, self grooming routine, brush teeth, jump in the shower. And then that may get that time that I need to meditate may get away from me depending on what takes place after those few things.
Mhm.
But in the event that I am able,
Okay, we seem to be having a little technical difficulty here, so hopefully the word will pop back in a second.
sorry, I noticed like you were froze for a minute and then I get kicked off again. Sorry. All right. But
That's
anyway,
okay. So were you, I'm sure you were in the middle of saying something, so we missed a lot of it.
oh, I think I was just explaining that, if I am able to start off first thing with a meditation, that puts me in a place where I can um, be more conscious and aware throughout the day. That
Mhm.
allows that space for me. Um, and even sometimes if I'm not able to meditate right away, if I allow myself some time in the middle of the morning or the middle of the day, it helps correct me or redirect me to that conscious awareness place.
Mhm.
Um, but the more I set the intention to be conscious and aware, the easier it gets. Did I lose you again?
So we can hear you, but we can't. You're not moving anymore. You're
Okay,
frozen solid.
moving solid.
Oh, there you are.
I'm back. Okay.
Yes. And so, one thing is we create our futures in the present moment.
Mm,
And so our thoughts that we're having today is pretty much what's going to show up in the future.
mm,
And so that's like the main major, I guess, motivation for staying woke, because if we're sending out frustrated energy or angry energy or depressed energy or any type of energy like that, we're almost guaranteeing that it's going to show up for us in our future. And
right.
so we want to make sure we're giving off good energy, stuff that we want to show up in our future. um, and so that's why I do the catch yourself in the act, so I can change it as soon as possible. So when I'm feeling, for some reason, frustration is one of my main negative, or I shouldn't say negative, but low vibrational frequencies that I
Okay.
emit is frustration. And so whenever I'm realizing that I'm feeling frustrated, I will quickly switch into something else. And so I pretty much will switch into, most of the times I switch into comedy, and I just make everything that's going on seem like, I'll think of it as like scenes from a comedy show, and so then it'll make me laugh instead of, being frustrated. So I'll either do comedy, or I'll think like, hmm, like what could I do? Could I do a training program to help this situation out? Or I'll think, like, is this person having a bad day? And then I'll try to send them good energy and good love instead of me just falling into the same frequency that they're in. And
Mm,
so in the moment when I feel myself going there and I'm like, you know I'm frustrated, then I'll just try to flip it to something else, something that I want repeated in my future.
right. That's awesome. I'm working on getting there. and having those moments more frequently. I
Yeah.
have those moments, so I will give myself that credit.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times where I just decide that I'm just gonna jump off the bridge and it'll all be over soon. I think that's something I've heard in one of my teachings. Like just go ahead, and have your fit, um, be frustrated, and just let it go, and
Yeah.
then you can start over.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yeah.
that's where I am most of the time. But I do find that, you know, I understand what you're saying, and that is next level stuff, you know, that I'm aiming for. Um, Leveling up and being able to catch it instead of, instead of diving off the deep end and then but but yeah, it's important, because the more you're reminding yourself of who you really are when you are aware, like you said, you know, you just make life easier on yourself. And then I never thought of it that way, that you're kind of producing the outcome of your future, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the the more you put energy into, depending on the type of energy you're putting into the moment right then and there. So it's your choice. Choose wisely. Choose wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I was just having an experience yesterday with being frustrated, and it was like the more frustrated I felt, the more frustrated I got, the more things that kept happening and happening and happening. I'm just like, this cannot be real. It just can't be real. It's got to be a comedy show
Right.
or whatever. And I was like, if I can just change this vibration, if I can just step out of this frustration, things would get better. And then I did. I stepped out of it, and it was like then everything else kind of just fell into place. So that's so important to stay woke and to catch yourself. And it's okay to do what you're saying, you know, in terms of just going with it for a little while, get it out your system, and then move on. There's no need in staying there. That's the thing. You don't want to stay in that vibration.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me a while actually to understand that, although um, I was making the choice to relive my frustrations either by talking about it instead of like finding a solution and working on it that way. It is still a form of progress, you know, to have the moment where you vent,
Hmm.
but you do have to have some awareness to know when enough is enough, and that to be aware that you're not progressing, you know. You still there? I think you
Yes,
can.
we're still
Okay.
here.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, you know, I think it just takes everyone to um, pay attention to how aware they are, or setting the intention to try and be more aware, and then finding like what level you're at.
Hmm.
So, are you, you know, are you getting better? You know, asking yourself that question. And journaling helps me a lot too, to especially when I'm frustrated, to write it down instead of what I sometimes like to do is call my sister or my friends and vent about
Hmm.
it, because then I can track my improvement, you know. It's like, okay, so last month around this time something similar happened, or the same thing happened, but I was able to, you know, this is what I did after, or this is what I did during.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
awesome. Yeah.
progression. Journaling. Yeah.
Yes. And I guess also whatever you put your attention on grows, and so that's just easy to remember. What you put your attention on grows. So staying woke means putting your attention on the things that you want to grow in your life, and it's almost like what you put your attention on. That's like you casting a vote. Like I want more of that. So so just making sure you put your attention on the things that you want more of.
Mm-hmm.
And every situation responds to love. So if in the moment when you catch yourself, if you can offer a vibration of love, that will transform the situation um, almost immediately. But a lot of times when you're in that space, you can't jump from frustration to, oh, I love, so you just want to get to the next higher vibration, or just totally think of something totally different, or you can even make up something. Like, just make up something that will make you laugh, or think of a time when something was funny, or think of people you love. Just totally switch your focus. If you can't move from that particular situation and take that particular situation up a notch, just
Mm-hmm.
switch your focus. And it's not about what word am I looking for? It's not about like acting like this stuff didn't happen, pretending that it didn't happen. It's just being in the practice of offering a different vibration, because whatever is going on, however we're interpreting it, is really our interpretation, and it's not real. So you could just as easily interpret it in a different way. You
Mm-hmm.
can choose how to interpret it. And so we so often will interpret things in the worst way.
Mm-hmm.
But we've chosen to do that, and so we can choose to interpret it in a way that will suit us better, a way that'll make us feel good, versus in a way that will make us feel bad.
Right. Yeah. That's a key point, I think, is the fact that you do have a choice, or you are making a choice
Mm-hmm.
when um, when you're in a moment or in a challenging situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Yeah.
all have the
And
choice to make it, to change it, like to make it something different, to think of it in a different way. And even asking yourself the question, what am I supposed to be learning from this situation?
mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, that gives you a different way of looking at what's happening in the moment.
Yeah. And
And
and that's a term that you've been saying a lot, is it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And
Mhm.
if we can think of every situation like that, okay, this isn't happening to me, it's for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what am I learning from it? What
Hmm.
is it? What is the
Oh, we just lost you. Can you hear us? Can you hear me? So we just lost Deborah. I'm not sure if this.
got a sign that says, "Oh, I can hear you now."
Yes, I can hear you now too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that gives you a different way of looking at the situation
Mhm.
when you're able to shift your perspective and think about, you know, this is happening for me. So what am I to learn from this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my husband, he's one of those people that, I guess the sun isn't shining right in my car, is it? Because you can't see me. There we go. So my husband is one of those people who he kind of walks around and uh, he creates the life that he wants. And so, for example, I could go into a place and ask for anything, and I might get the answer no. And he could walk in right behind me, and they'll be like, sure, and what else would you like? And I'm just like, what, how did that happen, or whatever. So I really study him. Like, how does he just walk around and doors just open, that are closed to other people? The one thing is, he's always thinking good things. He just has good thoughts in his head, and he's always thinking, you know um, like loving thoughts about people and things. And he uh always looks at the good side. He always assumes it's something good, wherein
Right.
I would typically assume that it's something bad. And
Right.
so, and
Yeah.
so we can have the same scenario, and I will interpret it like, oh, they say da 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 da. And he's like, no, they say da 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 da. And so I'm just like, how did you get that out of that? And he's like, how did you get that out of that?
Yeah.
And so I think that dichotomy really helped me to see that it's really all in your perception and things that you are you're so sure that someone slighted you, or you're so sure, that this situation is turning out terribly, but he's so sure the opposite thing, and we're looking at the exact same thing.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And that goes back to just the perspective, just and for some people it takes practice, because we all have different journeys. We've all had different experiences in our past that shape our character and how we think of different things, how we think of things and how we look at things.
Hmm.
So yeah, sounds
Yeah.
like he's had a lot of practice
Yeah.
or is just naturally good at that.
Hmm. And I just think it's so wonderful to be able to be in the space of realizing that everything that I think is not right. Just because I think this is right, it doesn't mean it's right. And if you can take space and say, okay, this is how it looks to me, but
Mhm.
I believe that someone else could see it in a different way. I believe
Mhm.
there's a different option than what I'm seeing and the way I'm interpreting it. And so I typically will always say, okay, the way I interpreted it was blank.
Mhm.
Now, can you
Right.
offer me something different? Like if I'm really caught up, like I can't figure out a different way to view this. So I'll ask someone like him, someone who typically does have a different point of view, a different perspective. What's
Mhm.
another way I can look at this? What's another way I can think about this situation?
Yeah. And that's so wonderful. My boyfriend Sammy has the same, like, I feel like natural way of looking at situations too.
Mm,
So I think it's great when you have someone, you know, that you're constantly around to
mhm.
give you an alternative way of looking at a situation.
Exactly.
Um, and especially just even a different viewpoint than you considered. Like if it weren't for that person and the way they perceive things, for him, I wouldn't look at half the situations and the way that he looks at them. So it's like a blessing to have just a different outlook to
Right.
help you, and then so I find myself having the ability now to shift to have my one way of looking at it and then talk to myself about, well, wait a minute, what about this way?
Mhm.
Just because of like the time spent around him and knowing his ways and like thinking differently. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? If
I
that
know
makes sense.
exactly what you
Yeah.
mean.
So I'm still being me,
Right.
maybe not my higher level me, but his his way of looking at a situation and approaching it allows me to level up. Like
Mhm.
when I'm in frustration mode and I'm thinking on 3D level, then I'm like, well, Sammy will look at it this way, or he'll probably look at it and say this. So then that levels me up or allows me to approach the situation in a way that I wouldn't naturally go to, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Exactly.
So that helps me stay woke.
Mhm.
Other people can help you.
And that's an important point too, because so often we'll choose friends and people around us that think like we do. And so,
Mhm.
people, they support you in your craziness sometimes. And
Yeah.
it's nice to have those friends, but we also want to make sure we surround ourselves with people that'll be like, okay, that's a little crazy, right?
Right. You're about
Yeah.
to jump off that cliff again, DeBorah. I'll be here when you come back.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this conversation on staying woke, because it's important that we stay woke, that we remember who we really are, step
Mhm.
into our power on a more regular basis, and the more we can practice remembering that we are more than just this physical experience, and that everyone around us is more than what your eye can see. If we can remember that, keep that in the forefront of our minds, remember to choose our thoughts every day, in every moment. The more we can choose our thoughts in the moment, the more we can stay present, the better lives we will create for ourselves.
Yes.
Yes,
Very well said. So true.
yes. But thank you for joining me, Deborah.
Thank you again for having me. Thank you all
Yes.
for listening.
Yes, and thank you everybody for joining us, and we look forward to our next time. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my website at arvatmclean.com.
Yeah.
Until next time,
Bye.
bye.